Right. Wayne, I'll just ask for your permission to mute you first. Okay, if any of you have any questions later on, you can unmute and then we can talk, we can speak to each other. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on color management organized by the APAC Learning and Development team. All right, let me just go to the agenda. Okay, so before we begin, here's a little bit about me. My name is Alex and I've been with Ricoh since 2016, which is also when I joined the printing industry. Right now, I'm heading both the CEC as well as learning and development teams. And with my 9+ years of experience, I'm still a baby compared to many of you in today's call. But what makes me different is that I'm okay with not being the smartest person in the room, and I'm totally fine with saying I don't know. Okay, in fact, I like it because that means that there's a lot more for me to learn. Now, have you noticed that if you're willing to listen, most people are very willing to share their experiences. So my job allows me to meet printers from all across the region, and I see myself as sort of like a sponge, constantly absorbing and trying new things. So today, the things I'll be sharing are a collection of what I've learned from many of your peers from across the APAC region. You may not agree with everything, and not everything may be applicable, but hopefully you'll pick up a thing or two and find this session useful. So this is what we'll be covering today. First off, we need to understand why color management is important for the print business. We have a wide range of attendees today, so we'll look at how color management affects the different roles in the business. We understand that many people face issues with color when it comes to printing, and especially digital printing. So we'll look at some of the key causes of these issues. So very quickly, to see if everybody can hear me and to see if everyone is awake, there is a button to raise your hand in Teams. Okay, so for those of you who face color issues often, please raise your hand. Can you find the button? All right, starting to see some hands being raised. Okay, so that means that all of you can hear me. Okay, so the fact that you're joining this call means you're interested in color management. So we'll talk about the common obstacles to color management that we hear about most frequently. And finally, Ricoh has some solutions with regards to color management, so I'll briefly run you through them. After this session, we hope that you'll have a better understanding of why color issues occur, as well as how Ricoh can be your partner in your color management journey. As mentioned, we have a wide range of attendees today, so the content will be pretty high level without diving too deep into the technical details. So let's take a look at why color management matters. For commercial printing, I'm sure that we can all agree that color is important. But at the same time, it's also a headache for many of us. Poor color management can lead to significant increases in production costs due to reprints, wasted materials, and inefficiencies, as highlighted in multiple industry case studies. Therefore, the key negative impacts of color mismanagement are wasted resources due to not getting the colors right or to the liking of our customers, loss of customers and their trust, as well as wasted time due to workflow inefficiency, which could be better used for revenue-generating activities. When our team members are stuck in an inefficient workflow, they start losing passion, which then leads to increased headcount turnover. I think the business owners in today's call can all agree with me that finding good people in printing is very difficult. Okay, I was having a chat with one of the commercial printers recently. Okay, and they were complaining about how their printers were all producing different colors. There was no way to know what colors would be produced by their digital presses each day, as the colors were so inconsistent. I have to be honest with you, one of the printers that they were using is a Ricoh printer. So I asked them how they were managing this situation and their customers. Eventually, I found out that basically their customers were not given a choice. All right, they lowered their print prices such that if customers wanted cheap prints, then they could not be fussy with colors. If they had customers that were very picky with color, then they had to turn them away. I don't know if that sounds familiar to you. Okay, we've talked about the negatives, so let's look at what we'll get from color management system. From color inaccuracy, we get color accuracy, right? Wasted reprints and excessive proofs are replaced by consistent output. And your printing workflow will also become a lot more efficient. There's a clear ROI when it comes to investment in color management. Cost savings are immediate as reprints are reduced. Your reputation will be enhanced. And you know the printing industry is very small. And you'll be known as the printer that does not compromise on color output. So you'll be able to access markets and clients that other printers will have to turn away, while being able to charge a premium for it. So I see that as actually a win-win, right? Productivity will also increase as your team will no longer need to get bogged down by laborious manual processes. And they'll also be happier as they don't have to deal with as many unhappy clients. Color management is something that affects all roles in the business, okay? For the business owner, wasted resources, cost of printing, loss of revenue, all these things are things that you need to consider. This will then affect the profitability of the business, which will also affect both the teams as well as clients. The salesperson that needs to go out and face clients will also have to deal with unhappy clients when the final prints do not match with the proofs. This also would affect their performance as clients would likely push for lower prices or threaten to go to other print providers. The operator's job is probably one of the toughest, right? The boss decides to invest in all the latest technology without consideration about how the output from each device is different. How is the operator able to manage the output between all the different printing devices, right? If they are using only one printer, then they're not being productive. And if they're using multiple printers, then they get blamed for color inconsistencies and wasted resources. Even the designer is affected. So you know these designers, they all have wonderful creative ideas, but then the printer never seems to be able to reproduce the colors that they want. So how? Of course, blame the operator, right? That's the easiest thing to do. So many times when the color is not right, they'll need to manually adjust the colors in Photoshop or maybe Illustrator to compensate for the color differences. And so for those of you in today's call who have tried doing that, you all know how difficult it is. Okay, when it comes to color issues, there are usually three main culprits. Okay, some can be fixed very easily, while others will require quite a fair bit of expertise. So first off, we have media and how our media selection affects the color output of our prints. Secondly, we have our machine and hardware limitations. Are we limited by the capabilities of our printers? And finally, what I would like to call color mismanagement. Are we doing anything to manage the color output of our presses, or are we just going based on luck? Okay, so let's look at how media affects the printer's color output. The paper that you choose to print on fundamentally changes your final color output. It's not about the ink, but it's not just only about the ink, but also how light interacts with the media surface. So first off, we have the physical impact of media. If you take 3 sheets of white paper and then put them side by side, you realize that even though they're all supposed to be white, they all still look slightly different. Okay. Then we also have to look at the coating of the paper. Coated paper usually produces more vivid colors, while uncoated papers produce more muted colors. Even the type of coating like glossy or matte also produces different results. Next, we have to look at paper suppliers. Good paper suppliers usually produce medias that are consistent. I've had media suppliers where different batches of the same paper, we ordered the same paper and they look totally different. This totally messed up our printouts, okay, because we print a lot of samples here in the CEC. So I thought there was an issue with the printer, only to later find out that the paper was of a different tint. So we wasted a lot of time and paper due to this. Paper profiling and printing to a certain standard is also important. This way, you can make sure that regardless of the media you're using, you can have some sort of predictable color output. And then we have different media types based on printing technologies, right? So offset medias are usually very versatile for absorbing the inks, and then toner-based medias needs to be able to withstand high heat from the fusing process. And then inkjet printers usually work with specifically treated medias for inkjet printing, what we call inkjet treated media. Okay, so how about machine and hardware limitations? Let's just take a look at this conversation between a business owner and the operator to get a better understanding. Okay, so can all printers produce the same exact colors? No, every printer has inherent technology limits, and the color output is bound by the machine's physical design and unique character. Okay, what are the key differences between offset and digital printing? So from this table, we can see that the color character as well as the key strengths and challenges for each technology. Okay, offset is great for stable and consistent color output, which I'm sure many of you would know, right? And they are also great if there are spot colors that need to be reproduced. It's great for long runs where the cost typically goes down the larger the print volume. And this also means that it's not suitable for short runs as well as for variable data printing. Inkjet digital printing is great for printing with a white color gamut. Depending on the type of inkjet technology, it can be very fast as well as cost effective for shorter runs. It's also able to handle variable data, which is a challenge for offset printing. And however, as with all digital printing, color consistency is a challenge. There's also the issue of ink bleeding on uncoated media, right? And then finally, for digital toner devices, we get sharp and precise prints with crisp text and graphics. Print speeds are generally fast, and we don't have an issue of curing as toner is fused and dried completely upon printing. The latest printers are also able to support a very wide range of media substrates if they can handle the heat. However, smooth gradients and color consistency are often a challenge for digital toner printing, which I'm sure many of you would have faced if you are working with toner printers. Okay, so this is a good question. So even identical printers can't produce the same color output? Okay, let's not talk about different models first, okay? Even the same model of printers produce different colors. In fact, even the same printer prints different colors from day to day. Remember the story I was sharing earlier about the printer that had no way of predicting the color output from their presses? Okay, so however, if there are actually a few things that we can and should look at when it comes to hardware. Okay, first, we need to look at machine wear. As with all machines, wear and tear occurs. So we need to make sure that we do regular preventive maintenance and servicing. Something simple like cleaning the printer can also affect our printouts. Environmental conditions also play a part in terms of color output. In most of Asia, the weather is usually very hot and humid. The good thing about Ricoh's printers is that we usually do well in these conditions, right? Sorry, can we get just mute? Okay, right. So as I was talking earlier about the printing conditions, right? So Ricoh printers are good with these hot and humid conditions, but it's also still good to have some form of temperature and humidity control. Okay, as the conditions change, the calibration of the printer would also drift. And so we recommend doing regular machine calibration, especially before printing color sensitive jobs. Most of our Ricoh's color presses are able to do inline calibration, so it's quite convenient to perform calibration. Okay, so we've talked about media and hardware. Now let's discuss color mismanagement by looking at some color management techniques, right? So effective color management with clients is essential to managing expectations, okay, and ensuring satisfaction with the final printed product. One of the most reliable methods is to use Pantone references or printed swatches during initial discussions to establish a shared understanding of desired colors. So this helps avoid misunderstandings and ensures that both parties are aligned on the visual goals. It's also important to discuss the limitations of color reproduction based on the chosen media and printer capabilities, as certain substrates or technologies may not support exact color matches. Providing visual mockups or soft proofs for client approval can further enhance transparency and trust. Finally, you need to document agreed upon color standard in job specifications, and this ensures consistency throughout the production process and serves as a reference for future projects. These practices foster clearer communication, right? It also helps reduce revisions and build stronger client relationships. Okay, now soft proofing is a critical technique in modern color management that allows print professionals to preview how colors will appear on the final printed output using a calibrated monitor. This method significantly reduces the need for physical proofs, saving both time and resources. To ensure accurate soft proofing, it is essential to use high quality monitors that support white color gamuts and are regularly calibrated using tools such as the X-Rite or maybe Data Color if you're familiar. Okay, so additionally, maintaining standardized lighting conditions in the workspace, such as using daylight balance light sources, helps ensure that what is seen on screen closely matches to the printed result. Designers should also ensure that ICC profiles are correctly applied in their design software to simulate the final output accurately. By implementing these best practices, teams can streamline their workflows, reduce errors, and improve client satisfaction through more predictable like color outcomes. So for print businesses operating across multiple locations, right? We've seen many printers that have multiple branches. Okay, so standardizing color management practices is crucial to maintaining color consistency and quality. So sharing ICC profiles across all branches ensures that color output remains uniform regardless of where the job is printed. Implementing centralized calibration routines helps align devices and workflows, reducing variability caused by environment factors or equipment differences. Cloud-based color management systems or CMS can facilitate synchronized workflows and real-time updates, making it easier to manage color standards across distributed teams. So training staff on unified color management practices ensures that everyone follows the same protocols, further minimizing discrepancies. And by adopting these strategies, businesses can achieve consistent branding, reduce waste, and then improve operational efficiency across all sites. Right. So proper file preparation is a foundational aspect for successful color management in printing. Designers should always convert RGB files to CMYK before sending them to print, as CMYK is the standard color that is being used in most printing processes. Right. Embedding ICC profiles in design files ensures that color information is preserved and interpreted correctly by the printer. Flattening transparencies and layers helps avoid unexpected results during the RIP stage. Using pre-flight tools to check for color issues, missing fonts, or incorrect resolutions can also prevent costly errors and delays. Establishing a standardized checklist for file preparation can streamline the workflow and ensure that all team members adhere to the best practices. So these tips not only improve color accuracy, but also enhance overall production efficiency and client satisfaction. Okay, so finally, tracking key performance indicators related to color management can help print businesses measure effectiveness and identify areas for improvement. Important KPIs include the number of reprints due to color issues, which directly impacts material costs as well as production time. Measuring the time spent on manual color adjustments also helps provide insight to the workflow efficiency or inefficiency, and also any potential bottlenecks. Right. Monitoring client satisfaction scores related to color accuracy can also highlight the success of communication and technical execution. So evaluating consistency across different print devices ensures that color standards are being maintained throughout the operation. By regularly reviewing these metrics, businesses can make data-driven decisions to optimize their color management strategies, reduce waste, and enhance customer loyalty. Okay, adhering to recognized color standards is actually very essential for achieving consistent and high quality print output. For the printers in here, you'll be very familiar with the ISO 12647. This is widely accepted as a standard for print production that defines parameters for color reproduction. So including in density and also things like dot gain, right? So G7 calibration is another valuable method that focuses on achieving grayscale and neutral tone accuracy, which is critical for maintaining visual consistency. Foregraph standards are commonly used in European workflows, and then especially for us also for Asian workflows, and provide guidelines for various printing conditions. Regularly auditing color output across these industry benchmarks helps ensure compliance and helps to identify areas for improvement. Implementing these standards not only enhances print quality, but also builds credibility with clients who demand professional grade results. By aligning with established protocols, print businesses can also elevate their operations and stay competitive in demanding market like printing is. Okay, so we've covered some color management techniques. And then now we will look at some of the main obstacles to implementing them. All right. So here we can see some of the main objections to doing color management. See if any of these sound familiar to you. Okay. The first one is too technical and difficult to learn. so I'm afraid that it will just create new problems. Or teams are often overloaded with daily work to handle the disruption of setting up a new system. Companies worry about spending too much money on a system with no guarantee of a return. It's a big initial investment in new software, equipment, and training. Current color problems are minor and can be fixed manually. CMS needs a dedicated expert to run it, and most teams don't have the person on staff. Okay, so from all of this, we can basically break it down into three main challenges. All right, and the first being complication or difficulty. All right, the second category would be time and manpower, or rather the lack of it. And third, budget constraints, which I'm sure that everybody can relate to. Okay, so let's first address the issue of budget constraints, since it's probably the first thing that everybody thinks about. Compared to the other two factors, this is probably the easiest to understand, but also the hardest to justify, especially to your management. Okay, it's very easy to say that something is too expensive, but what does too expensive actually mean? Right? So let's see the first opinion. Okay, it's too much money with no guarantee of a return. So does this sound familiar? The fear of spending a significant sum of money with no clear return is a major barrier for all businesses. So CMS is very often seen as a cost and not a solution that actually generates revenue and provides cost savings. So I totally understand this concern. In my management of the CEC, we often have to make decisions on whether to invest in a particular equipment or solution. So ultimately, it all comes down to three letters, right? ROI. Everything can be seen as expensive if we have no clear indication of the ROI that we can expect. However, if we can show a clear return on the investment, then the decision-making process actually becomes a lot easier. Okay, so first off, we need to evaluate a suitable CMS based on the current business needs. No point in buying a Ferrari if all you need is something to send your kids to school in. Okay, it would be too impractical as well as not make any financial sense. Right, so after deciding on the CMS that suits the business, we can then decide how much extra savings and revenue this would bring to the business. Things like customer satisfaction is intangible, so a bit hard to quantify, but other things like waste reduction as well as additional revenue can easily be calculated. So let's take a look at a CMS solution costing maybe $10,000. Okay, so this might sound like a very large amount for just color management. But however, if we look at the production reports from the previous year and saw that we wasted maybe about $2,000 in prints, $3,000 in man hours for manual color adjustments, as well as maybe $10,000 worth of businesses that we had to turn away due to our color inconsistencies, we can see that the total cost of this would be maybe about $15,000. So compared to the $10,000 for the CMS solution, it is actually not as expensive as we initially thought, right? So even better, instead of just doing everything yourself, let Ricoh partner you in this evaluation and then to see what solution actually fits your current solution. Okay, there is no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to a CMS. Ultimately, it depends on what you need right now. So for businesses that are just starting out, maybe a more targeted solution would be useful. So Ricoh can then come in and offer guidelines on color management, help to create custom ICC profiles, as well as train your staff up. This can be achieved through Ricoh's professional services. If you need something more advanced, how about doing color management in-house instead of outsourcing it? This would then allow you to do color management on demand, produce high-level color prints, as well as ultimately bring you long-term savings. So for this, Ricoh has color management software and hardware solutions for you. Okay, or perhaps you don't have the manpower resources to do everything in-house. How about automating your CMS? No need to be limited by specialized manpower. The workflow is simplified and easily implemented, which means that productivity is enhanced. And then you'll also have like long-term cost and time savings. And then not including the extra revenue that you'll be able to bring in. So for something like this, an automated solution, we have something like what we call the Ricoh Auto Color Adjuster. Okay, next let's address the issue of complication. Color management will not only create more problems. So one common misconception is that color management CMS system requires a dedicated expert operator and is a complex manual process. This is why it's seen more as a burden than a solution. So however, while CMS may seem overly complicated and daunting at first, it can actually be simplified based on our actual requirements. So instead of coming up with a workflow yourself, you can actually work with our Ricoh consultants where they can help create a workflow that suits you, and then also help to train your team and empower them to do it themselves. So this will help you consistent results. And at the end of the day, if all of this is still too complicated, right, you can actually just outsource all of this to Ricoh and then just let Ricoh do the color management for you. Okay, so the next opinion is why overcomplicate matters when CMS fixes can be done manually. Okay, so this is a thought that comes from many of the business operators, from the business owners. Okay, so many business owners believe that manual fixes are easy and that anyone can do it. So there's no need to invest in a color management system. However, what they don't see is the hidden cost of wasted time and resources that go into these manual fixes. They're not the ones doing it themselves, so they don't see the difficulty. Also, if this is done manually, it also means that everyone has their own way of doing things, which leads to inconsistencies when fixes are done by different people. So by standardizing a color management workflow, there will be a step-by-step process which operators can follow, which then creates a repeatable process, okay, across all the different devices as well as operators. So this decision to invest in a color management system will minimize human error, reduce hidden costs, as well as achieve consistency across all platforms. Depending on your requirements, some Ricoh solutions include CMS software and hardware, as well as maybe like the Ricoh Auto Color Adjuster. Okay, so now let's address the lack of time and manpower. So one common theme that we have with printers from across the region is the difficulty in finding talents that want to come into the print business. Okay, printing is often viewed as a sunset industry and doesn't sound as sexy as other industries like maybe tech or finance. Okay, that's why when I hear something like we have no color expert in our team, I totally understand this view. There's a need for color quality control, but then there's just nobody skilled enough to handle this kind of things, right? So in situations like these, it's good to remember that Ricoh can be your partner in color management. Instead of trying to do everything by yourself, leverage on external expertise to help you with your color management issues. In the longer term, our professional services team can also help you to establish processes and then train your team to be able to manage it themselves. Okay, and then similar to the previous example, when your teams are already overworked, adding a new system can sometimes be seen as more of a hassle than a benefit. It seems like you're already giving your team more work than they can handle. And therefore, instead of adding to their workload, we want to look at a solution that can actually benefit the team by lessening their workload and be easy enough such that they don't need an expert to manage it all. Okay, so after all, finding people is already very difficult, right? As we discussed, you don't want to actually create this bottleneck and overwork specific people in your team. This is when an investment into an automated color management system would be useful. So an automated system is perfect for teams that are already overworked and thus don't have the bandwidth to take on additional tasks. So the goal of all of this is actually to get powerful results with minimal effort. For this, you can once again look at something like the Ricoh Auto Color Adjuster, where you'll be able to achieve consistency across multiple platforms, as well as create long-term efficiency and cost savings. Okay, so we gave you some ideas of how Ricoh can be a partner in this color management journey. So let's take a look at them in a little bit more detail with the time that we have. Okay, I think we're running a bit behind time. Okay, so I'll just run through this very quickly. First up, we have our professional services. Over the past few years, we have been building up our pool of experts across the region to help with various professional services. So through color consultancy, let our consultants understand your business challenges so that they can tailor a solution that suits your needs. Okay, as mentioned earlier, our team can help you with creation of ICT profiles, workflow integrations to ensure that you're printing great colors in no time at all. And while we are happy to help with these tasks, we also strive to train and empower our customers, right, to do their own color management. And finally, we are one Ricoh. So if something is not available in your country or your region, you can look at, we will help you to look for appropriate resources across Ricoh to help cater to your particular color management needs. Okay, And then we have a wide range of software solutions that can be used for color management. So some of these include the Fiery solutions like Fiery Color Profiler Suite, as well as the graphics art package. Each country may have their own unique solutions, so reach out to your local consultants for more information. Okay, finally, we were talking about this quite a fair bit. We have the Ricoh Auto Color Adjuster, which helps automate color management for effortless accuracy. So this is a revolutionary all-in-one color management solution that is so easy that anyone can do it. So it has two main functions. The first one being to help create media profiles and ensuring that all your presses are printing to the same color standard. Okay, and number two, to be able to do color matching, which is very, very important. Okay, and also a very, very big challenge for all commercial printers. So imagine being able to match any print sample with just a few clicks. In the end, what you have is accuracy, where you can match different devices and samples with high precision, build confidence in both your staff as well as clients that you're printing to an industry standard, as well as efficiency, where color management is automated and your skilled personnel are free to do more productive tasks. Okay, so just to wrap things up, here's a very real example of the Ricoh Auto Color Adjuster solution in the APAC region. So I actually visited this customer and they are always very early adopters of various printing technologies, right? So this meant that they had all the latest printers from different brands, including Fujifilm, Konica Minolta, Canon, as well as Ricoh. So however, all the printers had their own color characteristics. They had a simple color management system in place and was able to ensure that each printer printed consistent colors. However, this also meant that a specific job could only be printed on a specific press. If the press was down, then that job would not be able to be brought over to another press for production. So this also created a backlog in jobs, as when larger jobs came in, they were not able to spread the workload across multiple presses. We then proposed the ACA, or the Auto Color Adjuster, which was able to help them solve the concerns and eventually saving production time and being able to spread the volume across multiple presses. So this also led to being able to bring in more jobs as well as, as a result, more revenue. Okay, so here's a quick summary of the Ricoh's color management solutions. So depending on the category that you fit into, there will probably be something that is appropriate to your situation. Okay, if not, we'll also be very happy to point you in the direction of other color service providers that will guide you through your color management journey. Okay, I'm sorry that I'm running through this quite quickly, but if you want, we can also share the slides with you after this. Okay, so here are some key takeaways from today's session. Okay, so first, color management saves time, money, and reputation. It helps to reduce waste and costs and costly reprints through consistent output. Okay, it helps to boost productivity by minimizing manual adjustments. It enhances customer satisfaction and builds trust. So this is very important. All right, and then there are also scalable solutions that exist for every budget as well as team size. So I hope that you found today's session useful. If you want to dive deeper into the details, please let your local Ricoh consultant know. All right, and then finally, we do quite a fair bit of content related to printing, and then we post them on social media. So for those of you who are interested in things like that, do scan the QR code on the screen to follow us, and then we will be sharing new content weekly. Okay, so thank you once again for joining us today. After today's session, we will be sharing a feedback form to gather the feedback from you guys, from all the participants in here, to understand what you thought about today's session, whether it's useful or not, so that we okay. So I'm sorry I overran the timing. Does anybody have any questions before we end the session? Okay, if there's nothing, I hope that this session was useful once again. Okay, thank you once again for joining us. All right, for everyone from across the region, good afternoon, good evening. And I hope to be able to see you for the next session. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Bye-bye.